Studio Gaga and Koji Mori continue the struggle of lifting the weight of Miuras' pen. A new BERSERK chapter dropped, and it was amazing, okay? We pick up where we left off with the potential evolution or enlightenment that Guts was inevitably facing. We see it coming to fruition. Now, the way it takes shape, the way it happens, the process is probably not what we exactly imagined. We knew something, some sort of evolution or something would happen to him to heighten him, to let him reach Griffith. As once said before by Skull Knight, you have to exist outside the story as well, so you can even touch the author. Griffith being the author. Okay? What we see today in this new chapter, not only has it not probably taken the shape that we imagined, but you also have to keep in mind the Studio Gaga and Koji Mori, they can't exactly one-to-one bring these concepts to the screen the same exact way Kentaro Miura would have. They've been doing a great job. But even some panels you might think, man, I think Miura would have showed the panel this way, that way. There's no question about it. They could have easily ruined this concept with the way they portrayed it and not portrayed it right. But I think they did a really good job. They did a great job. No problem. Now let me get right into talking about what exactly was portrayed and conveyed in this chapter. Well, like I was saying earlier, we finally get to see something that has been getting foreshadowed in the background and subtly, kind of sometimes even in our faces, but foreshadowed nonetheless. We finally get to see what the true nature of our main character is, and what this would mean for him going forward. Also, we are getting the answer to one of the many age-old questions of how Guts would be able to reach Griffith with his sword. Guts once stated before that now that Guts is walking on the same ground as him, that alone was enough for him to finally be able to reach him. But he came to the conclusion, after actually trying, that that's not all he needs. It's been said multiple times that him being this higher being from a different dimension, a different realm, even though he has this physical body, much of his existence is still based in the astral world. Thus, people like Guts need a means to touch him. Guts has been successfully doing so, also part of what this new chapter is highlighting, how Guts has always been existing in the interstice. The fact that he has the brand allows him to exist in this space. The shores, the shallow shores of water that are linked to the deep ocean that is the astral realm. Guts has always been existing within these shallow shores, these shallow waters, okay? He only needed additional things outside of his own power to help him kill apostles and touch other things that are from the same interstice, right? The same existence of being in between. In this chapter, we see the main character achieve this enlightenment that we all knew was going to come eventually, but we see him achieve it through this concept of his being, having been since birth, split in two different places. So he has neither existed fully in the astral realm or the physical realm. But now these two halves of his being coming into one again, making him whole, will have repercussions and side effects on the very nature of his current being. Meaning, we can potentially see Guts with a strengthened ego and heightened connection to the astral world. So he could do things like not have to lose control when he uses the Berserker armor, okay? He could finally master the Berserker armor and do what the dwarf blacksmith told him in Elfheim. This character, who it's been said many times, the very nature of his birth has been defying death since his existence, since his incarnation, and that nature being the very reason why he's able to avoid death, because he's so close to it. This path has been laid out for Guts the whole time. Different things and or aspects of his nature, setting him up to challenge these higher level beings, has always been at play. It's always been a part of him. This mystery finally being blatantly revealed to us. Some people don't know how to take it. They think this means Guts is no longer human. He is just as human as he has been this whole time, which is always not a normal human. He's always been not a normal human. No normal human can see spirits in the age that he was living in, okay? Now, like I said earlier, the depiction of this is probably not exactly what Miura would have done. I think the infant, the imagery of an infant, would have still been getting used. Obviously, the cocoon would have most likely gotten used. Maybe the cocoon would have looked slightly different if Miura did it. Maybe he would have had different angles and a different presentation for the infant astral body depiction of Guts's, his soul descending into his physical body. Maybe it would have been shown slightly different. But I think, nonetheless, this is exactly what we would have gotten from Miura. This concept and idea playing out in a lot of different mythologies and religions, like Miura has always referred to and used pieces of and taken them and made them his own. Metaphysical, spiritual beliefs, with the Kabbalistic views in particular, have depictions of an infant, and that often reflects and symbolizes enlightenment and the gaining and remembering of astral knowledge. Because in some traditions, the belief is that as a soul on incarnation, before you enter your physical body, the soul, since it's a part of the ether and whatnot, it has all sorts of knowledge that it knows that exists outside the universe, whether it's taught to them directly by an angel or some sort of other higher entity or being that has allowed them to descend and is letting them enter these physical bodies, and they call it astral knowledge. This is akin to Guts tapping into his astral knowledge because he's learning about things and circumstances before his birth and before he even existed. And the fact that this shell, because previously we only could speculate what was going to happen. Now that we see it, we know that the egg, the shell that he was wrapped in, this lotus flower that took the form of a shell, is very representative of birth, and Guts is being reborn. He had a new ensoulment. His physical body that he grew up in as a grown man is basically gaining a new soul, right? I mean, it's his, but in a sense, he didn't have it the whole time. He didn't have the whole thing. So, and I can imagine that this part of him that's been existing in the interstice, in the part of the astral world that it's been existing in, has been getting stronger, and it's possibly been through a lot of things. It could have traveled deeper into the astral realm, the parts that are so deep that no witch or any other being could ever even go to or survive from, that the Lady Witch Flora speculated could possibly pertain to those ideas, the deeper ideas that humans have of like heaven and hell. Those possibilities could exist in the deepest depths of the astral realm, but you can never know. Certain beings travel through there. Guts' body is an infant, his infant ego and whatnot. I wonder if it even has its own ego, okay? That's kind of speculation. We don't know how far this goes, but we do know that this is going to make him whole in a sense, okay? Two halves becoming one again. It's going to have a side effect and repercussions. It could just be simply that he can now fully touch things that exist in the astral realm, even with his normal human strength. So now he can fight ghosts with his hands and stuff like that, maybe, right? Since he's kind of existing in both. Fully now, maybe, right? He's maybe existing in both fully, or maybe he doesn't need to exist in both fully, because the current plane of existence that they all live in, where with the, you know, the earth, where earth is, this physical world has been, it's already become an interstice. It's already been seeped in the astral world to a certain extent, where these mythical beings can pour in from the astral world freely, almost as if they were always a part of it. So Guts fully combining with his astral body, it could have some unknown ramifications. We could see anything happen at this point. I believe even the panel that we saw with the fetus of Guts dropping from his mother's corpse, because, you know, originally, obviously, we've seen this panel and depiction before with Guts being born from a corpse. He wasn't a fetus laying in a puddle of mud and afterbirth. He was a newborn baby, an infant child, right, laying in a puddle of blood, mud, and afterbirth. The depiction that we've seen this time, I believe they're showing us what happened the same day, but to the other half of his being. It, you know, obviously came out as like a fetus, the same look that the infant child corrupted in Casca's womb had. It has the same appearance almost, because it was like a fetus, but it's also not fully existing in the physical world, okay? Just the same way Casca's child is. So Guts might become something more similar to what the Moonlight child is at this point, because the fetus half of him had the same kind of existence, but it never touched the physical world, because it only existed in the half that it was in, the astral world, within the interstice. So yes, I believe that depiction is showing the fetus dropping and it turning into a baby, but it stayed in the baby state until the next step was finally reforming with its physical half that is now a grown man and has been through many, many things and whatnot. I can only imagine the possibilities this combination, this union is going to have, because even when Guts and his friends entered the forest, another place, like I said before, it's an interstice. It's slightly seeped into the astral world, but still exists in the physical world. They entered it, and they were technically in the astral world at that point. And it was said that the cuts and wounds on their body were healing quicker because their astral bodies were getting used to the physical shape and form that they have in the physical world. Since now they stepped into a place that existed in between. Both bodies, both entities, both parts of their existence are kind of accepting one another, becoming one and whole while they were in that space. Guts might have the luxury of this process happening to his physical body while he's existing outside of a place that is an interstice. Well, technically, like I said before, the whole planet right now is an interstice. So he might be fortunate that the planet is under the circumstances that it's under, and he was unlucky enough to be born the way he was born. It might give him the perfect combination, the perfect touch that he needs. And obviously, it's going to give him that touch that he needs. Guts has been only human this whole time. Like I said, only having external forces to help him and, you know, enable him to even face certain beings of like seemingly godly proportions, these other apostles and Nosferatu Zod. He can go toe-to-toe with some of these people with just his physical body being pushed past his physical limits with magical means, of course. But then it's also his own determination and hatred that drives him, and the combination of the lifestyle he lives that often has his blade seeped in the miasma and in the uncorporeal essence of the different entities and demons that he's slain. So this blade it's gotten used to the battles he's in. We've seen in a recent chapter that Sharike was able to see the memories of his blade, not just Guts' memories, but the memories of this physical object. Because, you know, like in other mythologies and beliefs, and often in some Japanese parts of the Japanese religion, I don't know exactly which ones, but, you know, they believe in the idea that physical objects have a soul to them. They have, you know, a soul, and they're not just completely physical objects, right? There's some sort of emotion and energy and soul that's attached to it, especially if they're objects that have been cared about and loved so deeply by somebody and mean a lot to certain individuals in life. I think Guts' sword is also going to get this deeper highlight because, you know, if this connection, he's gonna have his mind. Guts is gonna have his mind and his ego kind of opened up and more enlightened. So I feel like he might be able to feel his sword. He might be able to sense the power it has, the miasma it's seeped in. He might be able to hold the sword and remember the battles and kind of get glimpses of that sort of stuff. Guts might be more spiritually attuned, right? I'm not saying he's going to be casting fireballs. I don't believe that. I don't think he's going to be throwing balls of spirit energy or using the force. No. But as a human who can already see spirits and pixies, I believe this slight touch from the astral world is going to be enhanced even further to the point he might even be able to see things sometimes deeper than illusions, right? He might get a little glimpse, premonition. You know, he might be able to, like I said, see some memories, the emotion that's attached to his blade, and get a deeper connection and understanding to it. The fact that he's been worn down so much through his ego and his physical body, and he's been so seeped in this miasma that I've been mentioning, and he's preserved through it all. And the brand already making him exist outside of the interstice, right? He's been born ignoring causality. I feel like these things that were naturally going to make him a stronger person, it strengthens his ode and those parts of him. It strengthens his hatred. Those intangible aspects of his being have already been through this test and through the fire to the point he's built up almost like a callus, right? It's even stronger. It's been tempered in the flames like steel. So this emergence of his other half is definitely going to show us a stronger Guts in more ways than just physical. And I had a small thought about what Guts said. If he didn't meet the Band of the Hawk, would what happened still have happened? I believe it would have, because Guts, like we know already, and like what we definitely know now, he's always existed outside of causality. The God Hand questioned his struggle against fate and thought that it wouldn't really mean much or amount to much, but time and time again he's been struggling against the fate that's supposed to be assured for people, right? This is what makes him a struggler. Outside of the brand of sacrifice, he's been a struggler against fate. I believe his existence outside of causality and the fact that the egg of the king that Griffith held was linked to Griffith's fate, that was going to be inevitable anyway. The eclipse was inevitable. I believe if Guts didn't meet them, it still would have happened. Now, Guts wouldn't have been the trigger. He wouldn't have been the trigger, but Griffith eventually still would have sacrificed his own people. The circumstances would have been different. He wouldn't have been broken down, and as you know, he wouldn't have been broken down in the same exact way and depraved and depressed in the same way, because he lost he finally took a loss in his life, and you know, the whole psychology behind him losing the guts and everything, the way he took it wouldn't have happened that way. But surely enough, Griffith still would have reached some sort of breaking point or have gotten to the despair. He was already living in despair the whole time. The image he portrayed was just more of a facade, and he had to keep the image up. He was already in great despair and not in the best spot mentally. So any sort of situation could have happened. He could have got hurt in battle with the whole crew, and his blood gets on the Behelit at the right time, right when he needs this power, this strength, because he's about to lose his whole dream. And then he could have become Femto on that day too, sacrificing everybody. Casca would have died then too. He probably wouldn't have did what he did to her that day. He only did that because of Guts. But outside of all of that, yes, I think Guts was wrong. If he didn't meet the Band of the Hawk, causality and fate still would have taken Griffith to that level. Another thing I should mention, I do not believe that Flora was the spirit. Lady Flora was not the spirit that visited Guts, in my opinion. Not only do they look different, the spirit that we saw, her hair was straight up directly. Flora, she had a middle part and her hair was broken off into two waves going in each direction. And we could see her hair kind of not flying straight up, but just flowing to the sides, right? And I know it's a different artist, obviously, but I don't think they would have missed this part of her depiction. And even if I'm wrong, I would still like to believe that this is possibly one of the 4 cardinal spirits that we've seen, or some other higher existence. I've seen people say they think it could be Guts' mother. We don't know everything about Guts' mother. It could possibly be true. We don't know. We don't know anything about that, and we thought we never would have gotten any small thing about them again. But the fact that his mother's birth is being highlighted, and her hatred, and her resisting death and whatnot is, transferred over to him through birth in a certain sense, right? Because it's been said before also, this idea might come around and go even deeper. Somebody could mention who his mother is. She could have been some witch from the past, at the very least. We don't know. That's always been another theory too, but I don't think we're going to get that answer anytime soon. We're glad, or we should be lucky that we got what we got. Kind of even delving back into this sort of circumstances and situation, the idea that we've all had, that we've had questions about, we've gotten an answer for it, and this should show you what real foreshadowing is. I know that's kind of random to say, but I know a lot of people think foreshadowing is a lot of other things. They take a lot of different examples as foreshadowing when it's really not. This is something that's truly been there, getting foreshadowed for a while. It's not that they're making this new concept and connecting it to something in the past. It's not happening in reverse. No, this has been there, and we're now getting a solid confirmation and just the whole concept. It's not redefining Guts, as I said earlier. This is only highlighting and recontextualizing the circumstances around his birth, what it means, because now it has a bigger importance in the story to who he is. And who he is isn't changed by this new revelation, because it's in line with what he's always been, a struggler against fate, a person who was born in death, and that connection to death is most likely why he can defy it. Skull Knight said it before, right? All these things still are there. His little affinity and attunement to the spiritual things. He's been seeing fairies since he was younger, okay? It's all there. It's just been enriched. It's just been amplified at this point. And this also deepens like I was saying, the connection of the opposites, the themes of Guts and Griffith being opposite, one wearing white, one wearing all black, but the one in all black is the good guy who uses light and darkness to fight people. He lives, he is the light, but he lives in the dark. And Griffith is the dark that lives in the light. He wears all white, but truly he is evil on the core, on the inside. He is nothing like Guts. Okay, the visual perception of the two has always been opposites, and there's been a parallel drawing the line between how they're different, the stark contrast between their designs and everything about them. the way they're built, the weapons they use, the color black and white, the dog and the hawk, the dog and a bird, they're completely two different things, okay? It's been happening this whole time. But there's one thing that makes them the same. This commonality is going to be the reason why his sword can reach Griffith finally. Why Guts can finally swing his sword at Femto and get his revenge is because he is somewhat the same as him. And even the way they become the same is completely opposite. Guts through personal loss, unfortunate circumstances, self-struggle. Griffith through struggling, not really, sacrificing other people, being blessed in certain ways, you know, since birth with his luck and his right to the egg of the king. The fate that he's had has always been a quote-unquote blessed fate, a fortunate fate. Everything is going his way since he's been around. In the physical world, he's the hawk of light. But to all those who know of things astral and uncorporeal, he is the hawk of darkness. He's an omen. Talked about in the prophecy. I just wonder now if there's ever any little slight prophetic mention about Guts or somebody who struggles against fate. There's been many strugglers before. There's been fellow strugglers and strugglers alike that are common. But I wonder if they've ever mentioned anywhere that a certain struggler would go so hard against causality. Because even the God Hand didn't predict Guts doing half the things he did. Like they said themselves, they are not fully gods. And we know the God Hands serve a higher entity that lives deeper in the darkness of the astral plane. A lot of answers still waiting to be had. More questions even being brought up today. I know doing research for this video, I've seen a lot of old posts reflecting what people used to think back in the day. People questioning Guts' birth in a lot of significant ways and what it would mean and his connection to the corpse he was born from. Who is she? Who are his parents? Does Guts, is he really a normal human? Does he have something about him we don't know? Now we know. The circumstances around his birth are exactly what we most likely thought they were, what most likely everybody thought they were. Him being this existence, this human that exists kind of in both worlds at the same time. He's touched by the afterlife. We've always kind of known Guts, the man who has always existed outside of the physical world, 1 foot in the waters of the astral world, 1 foot out. He is now getting more astrally attuned and reaching the heights of Femto. So one day he can finally use his sword on him and get his revenge. I don't really have much else to say in this video. Maybe at some point I stop saying anything at all. I don't know. But I do know I'll probably make another video sometime soon. I think I dropped everything I needed to say, every little piece of analysis and thoughts, and all the little information I have on what happened just now, and the perspective it's taken. A lot of people, like I said already, they think Guts is gonna become a superhuman. He already was superhuman, okay? But we have to wait and see. Also, side note, one more thing. Maybe I should have said this earlier. I hope you're waiting long enough to hear this. But Guts' Behelit, what can it mean now? It might have way more importance now too. His Behelit might not be used to sacrifice other people. He might be able to use it for some other means. He might be able to activate it on his own just to summon the God Hand. And I wonder how Guts' fight with Griffith is going to take place, because now if he can touch Griffith in the physical world, what is he going to do about Femto? Because Guts knows that he still exists outside of this reality too. So will Guts have 2 fights with Griffith, one in the physical world and one in the astral plane, fighting Femto? And maybe Guts will have an astral body in that plane. Maybe he'll enter the astral realm. He'll learn how to astral project, and he'll travel there as a spirit with his sword, since his sword is a part of him now. Maybe he'll travel there in an astral body, and he'll fight Griffith in the form of this beast of darkness looking man thing, similar to how the Berserker armor makes him look now. But he'll be more beast-like because he's in the astral realm taking on this different form. So it really will be a dog versus a hawk, similar to how we've seen in Casca's heart, her inner mind, with these 2 people that she knows taking these non-human forms to represent their, I guess, the egos that she knew, right? She had the dog fighting the bird. We might see that come into play in a more humanoid form, of course, but Guts might fight Griffith in the physical world and then fight him in the astral world. I believe his fight in the physical world will be with the help of his friends, but when he fights him in the astral world, if that even is the case, I believe that will be the fight that he has 1v1, and we'll see a lot of mirrors and parallels between their first couple of encounters, like when Guts tried to go up the staircase to fight Griffith, and like when they first fought and Guts swung his sword and Griffith stood on top of it. We'll see those sort of things being reflected, I feel like, in this final fight. But let me know what you think. That's it for me. Another Berserk video, and I'll try to have some more before the next chapter. I'm out.